Good evening. How is everyone doing tonight? Very good. Good. There's one prerequisite for the class tonight, and that is you guys have to give me some feedback. We're going to learn how to avoid tunnel eating. How to avoid tunnel eating. And when I do this class, I actually like to start this class with a quiz. So we're going to look at the human body, and we're going to start off by doing a quiz. So I'm going to ask you what some of these organs are. What is that organ right there? Esophagus. Okay, very good. What's that one? Stomach. Okay, good. Let's pick on that one. Liver. Very good. Okay. What about that one? Large intestine. All right. What about that one? Oh, that's the small intestine. Why did they call that one small, by the way? Any ideas? Very good. Smaller in circumference. Yes, much longer in length, but smaller the diameter of it. Okay. Let's pick on this one. Gallbladder. Okay. What about that one? No. Pancreas. Okay. Isn't it very interesting? We're not going to go through all the parts in the body, but these are some of the key ones that we're going to look at tonight. I used to, when I first started teaching this class, I used to actually hand out felts to participants, and then they got to come up and stick them on the body. And that was interesting, kind of like pin the tail on the donkey, and you never knew where the organs were going to go. But what it showed me is that we really don't know a lot about our human body. We know a lot about our vehicle. Even most of us women know most of the major parts of our vehicle. And you know, you think about it, with a vehicle, we can take that vehicle in, we can exchange it for a brand new one. But with this human body, this is the only one that we have. So we need to understand how it works. And that is what our class is going to be about tonight. We're going to understand how the body works. We're going to learn specifically about digestion. We want to learn how to avoid tunnel eating, and you'll understand that as we go along here. Okay, we're going to start by looking at what happens when we eat food. So when we eat food, we're going to pick on a carrot here tonight. We put that into our mouth and we chew that up and we make a pulp out of it, hopefully. Sometimes people don't keep the food in their mouth long enough and it goes down in big chunks, but the ideal is to keep it there until we make that into a mush. Now when we're chewing that food, what are we mixing it with in our mouth? Saliva, okay. And do you know how many salivary glands that we have? Quite a few. Any ideas? Give me a number. What do you think? Anybody know? We have 3 pairs of salivary glands, so we actually have 6. And they all contribute saliva to help mix with that food. And you're going to see the importance of saliva in digestion. So these are the 3 pairs that we have, 3 on both sides there. And the main component of saliva is water, okay? That's the main component. What else do you think is in saliva? What is it made of? Okay, there's enzymes. Good. What else? Any other ideas? DNA. Well, there could be some, yes. What else might be in there? Any other thoughts? Think about saliva in your mouth. Let's take a look. Okay, yes, there's some electrolytes in there, potassium and sodium ions, mucus. Okay, there's enzymes that we mentioned, and there's also antimicrobial enzymes. These are enzymes that specifically work against microbes that come in. So this is actually what saliva is composed of, and your body has to make this special composition to help with the beginning stages of digestion, because digestion actually begins in our mouth. Okay, so your body is working to put this together. Any idea, if you think about the course of the day as you're eating your food, 2 or 3 meals, whatever you're eating in the day, what do you think the actual quantity of saliva is that your body's producing? What would you think? Throw out an idea. Lots. Somebody said lots. 3 cups, 2 cups, okay.
1 liter, 2 liters.
Okay, actually you're very close. Yeah, it's about 1 to 1.5 liters of saliva. That's a lot, actually, when you think about it. If you think about how much is being produced then when you're chewing your food, that's a lot of saliva. And that must be mixed very thoroughly with the food for the beginning processes of digestion to take place. Carbohydrates are just a broad classification for starches and sugars. Carbohydrates begin their digestion in your mouth. If you've ever had the experience, anyone have the experience of having low blood sugar, when your blood sugar dropped low, okay? If you take something sweet when that happens, it rapidly picks that sugar level back up, doesn't it? You can take a little bit of juice or something sweet into your mouth and very quickly, within just a few, maybe 30 seconds or something, you're already starting to feel better. It's picking that blood sugar back up. That's because already the beginning stages of digestion are taking place. Some of those sugars are already being transported into your bloodstream and picking up that blood sugar level. Very interesting. So it's very important that the food spends long enough in the mouth to prepare it for further digestion, but to also begin the stages of digestion of carbohydrates. Very important that we chew our food well. So the saliva is going to mix with the food that we are chewing in our mouth coming from those salivary glands. Okay. I'm going to give you tonight 5 principles of good digestion. 5 principles of good digestion. You might want to write these down. These will help to ensure that the food that you put into your body is going to be absorbed. Okay? So we're going to look at those principles of good digestion. Principle number 1 here. Taken with meals, water diminishes the flow of the salivary glands. Those very important glands. If we drink with our meals, we're diminishing the flow of the salivary glands. And the colder the water, the greater the injury to the stomach. We're actually going to injure our stomach if we're putting cold water in with our meals. Isn't that something? Ice water or ice lemonade drunk with meals will arrest digestion. What does that mean to arrest digestion? Stops it. Okay, so it's going to stop digestion until the system has imparted sufficient warmth to the stomach to enable it to take up its work again. Food should not be washed down. No drink is needed with meals. Eat, what's that word? Slowly, and allow the saliva to mingle with the food. The more liquid there is taken into the stomach with the meals, the more difficult it is for the food to digest, for the liquid must first be absorbed. So our very first principle of good digestion is do not drink liquids with meals. Do not drink liquids with meals. We need to do our liquid drinking in between meals. So we need to wait for about an hour and a half to 2 hours after we eat, and then we need to start drinking our liquid in between meals. And you will find if you do that, you will not feel thirsty at mealtime. You will not feel the need of having something to wash that food down. Okay? So that's the first principle right there. Now, we've chewed that carrot up really well. We've mixed it with the saliva in our mouth. We've got the carbohydrate digestion started. And now that's going to move down the esophagus, and it's going to move into our stomach. How does the food move down the esophagus? Peristalsis, okay, very good. That's a squeezing muscular action that actually moves it down into our stomach. When I was young, I used to think that food just sort of dropped. You know, gravity just sort of dropped and you had this tube and it fell in. And if you think that's the case, you can try an experiment. You can try standing on your head and swallowing, and you will find that that bite of food will actually move against gravity up into your stomach. It's not comfortable, but you can try that experiment and you will find that, yes, it's moving against gravity, and that's because muscles are moving that. And that peristaltic action is actually the action that goes all through the whole food tube. If we look at this, it's one long tube. It started in our mouth, all the way down the esophagus, into the stomach, goes through the small intestine, into the large intestine. One long tube, okay? Has different shapes in different areas, different functions in different areas, but it's one long tube. I like to refer to it as a tunnel. So think about this now. I want to ask you a question. If you put food into your body, you chew it up and swallow it, is it in your body? I hear a yes and I hear a no. Okay, what was the question? If you chew that food up and swallow it, is the food in your body? Yeah? No? Okay. Actually, I want you to think about it. You swallowed it. It's in the tunnel. The food is in the tunnel. What if that food just moves right on through that tunnel and out the other end? Is it going to do you one bit of good? Not going to do you one bit of good. Why? Because it was in the tunnel. The nutrients weren't actually in your body yet. When you drive through a tunnel in a mountain, are you in the mountain? You're in the tunnel, right? You're not in the mountain. You would have to somehow get across through that barrier and into the rock itself if you were to get into the mountain. That's essentially what we're talking about here. You can put the very best nutrition into your body, but if it doesn't actually get across the walls of that tunnel and into your tissues, it's not going to do your body good, okay? So that is what we want to focus on tonight, the way that we can make sure that the nutrients will get out of the tunnel and into our tissues where it will do us good, okay? So the very first principle now was, what was the first principle we learned? Don't drink with meals, no liquid to be taken with meals. That's our very first principle for good digestion, making sure that those nutrients will get out of the tunnel and into the tissue. Okay, so that food is now down in our stomach. I'm going to show you a little video clip here. This is actually what peristalsis looks like. This is the muscular action taking place. This is basically right where the stomach empties into the small intestine. And this is a real picture being taken here. You can see those muscles moving and squeezing. Isn't that interesting? That's the squeezing peristaltic action that takes place through the whole food tube. Isn't that amazing? It's just so incredible that a camera could go down there and get that picture like that. And it just continues to squeeze and to squeeze. That's peristaltic action right there. Very, very interesting. And you can see how that is very moist in there. That's all the mucus in there that helps to move everything along. That squeezing action there. Okay. So back to our stomach here. The carrots move down into the stomach. I want to ask you now, that stomach, what angle is that stomach sitting at? Okay, it's kind of angled, isn't it? It's not sitting horizontal, it's not sitting vertical, it's sitting kind of angled. And that muscular squeezing action that we saw taking place with peristalsis, there's a muscular action that takes place in our stomach. 3 layers of muscles, and they're all working together to help in the process of digesting that food. Now, it also works with gravity. So muscles and gravity are working together to start the digestion taking place that happens in the stomach, okay? Because in our stomach is actually now where proteins are going to be worked on. And what happens now, because we see that we need to have some gravity in there, muscles will push up and gravity will pull down, muscles will push up, gravity will pull down. What happens now if we go after we eat a meal and we lay down? What's going to happen? We're not going to have gravity working for us, are we? We're going to have muscles working. Muscles will still be working, but gravity won't be working. And if any of you have ever had that experience and you've woken up sometime later and it feels like, oh, that food is just all still sitting there in my stomach, that's because it is still just all sitting there in your stomach. It didn't digest properly. Now, I know we all live in very stressful work environments, and our lives are hectic and busy, and sometimes we are just plain tired after we eat. So I would like to suggest, if you're very tired and you feel that you have to have a snooze, don't lay down. Prop yourself up in a chair, prop yourself up with a nice comfortable pillow. At least you're going to sit up and have a nap that way. And you'll have the gravity that will still work for you, and your food will carry on with its digestion. okay? But laying down after we eat can cause a lot of health problems. We don't have time to go into what some of those are, but they can definitely start to cause us health problems. So that food now is in our stomach. In our stomach is where protein digestion is going to take place. Carbohydrates, they were worked on in the mouth, but when they get to the stomach, they're actually going to cease their digestion. They're going to stop. The stomach is just for digesting proteins. And again, that used to be something when I was younger, I just thought the stomach did all the digestion. That's what the stomach was for. But it's not. Your stomach is just for digesting protein. That's why you have the very strong acid in there. And we'll take a little bit of a further look at that. Rudy showed you last night the pH scale. He showed you that number 1 on that far end is acid, and 14 on this end is very alkaline. So that's your pH scale. I would like to show it to you on a little bit different plane here. We're going to take a look now at what some common the pH of some common items are. So let's take a look here. Pancreatic juice. Where does pancreatic juice come from now? Okay, from the pancreas. That's an easy one. What about bile? Where does bile come from? Gallbladder. Very good. A bladder is for storing something, okay? And a bladder, the gallbladder, stores gall or bile. That's just another name for it. So it's a gallbladder or bile bladder. It's for storing gall or bile. And that's used to emulsify fats. That's the purpose of bile. Then we can see the pH. Pancreatic juice is almost a 9. It's actually about 8.8. That's the pH, so it's very alkaline. It's quite alkaline, and we're going to see why that's important to have a very alkaline juice there. Bile runs anywhere from about 7.5 up to 8.8. So again, the bile being produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder is a very alkaline substance. The blood, Rudy mentioned last night that our blood needs to be between 7 and 8. Okay, actually the blood itself needs to be about 7.35, but the tissues of our body need to be between 7 and 8 to be in health. That's where the neutral, between 7 and 8, the pH is neutral. Saliva is a little bit acidic. It's about a 6.8, so it's just slightly acidic. That's the perfect pH for starting that digestion of carbohydrates in our mouth. Let's take a look down here though at stomach acid. Look at that, very acidic. It's down around a 2. We need the strong acids in our stomach to start uncoiling those proteins. And we'll see later on this week, I'm going to actually show you a video clip, but you're going to see how a protein is made. You're going to get to see how a protein is made. And you'll understand why we need strong acids then to uncoil the protein. It's actually all coiled up. Lemon juice, you'll notice lemon juice is very close to stomach acid, very, very acidic. So I'm going to give you a little helpful tip. Have any of you experienced ever indigestion or where it felt like the food just wasn't digesting for some reason in there? Very simple way to help with that. Squeeze a lemon, the juice from half a lemon, and drink that fresh juice down, usually about a couple tablespoons, and you will find within just a few minutes, usually 5 minutes or so, you will find that indigestion going away. You'll find that meal digesting for you. The reason being is because what you're doing is essentially adding some more acid in there to help digest that food. Very simple to do, and many, many people over the years that have been taking things to help with their digestion. In fact, a lot of people that we deal with, a lot of our patients that come in, we find that they're taking a lot of antacids, Tums, and things like that because they have something happening where acid is coming back up the esophagus. Some of you may have had that happen. A lot of times, actually most times, that is not a problem from too much acid. That is actually a problem from not enough acid. You have a little sphincter at the bottom of the esophagus. It's called an esophageal sphincter. It's a little muscle, and when your stomach acid is high enough, that muscle will close so that you don't get stomach acids and things coming back up and burning in the esophagus. Okay? If your stomach acid is not high enough, that muscle doesn't close, it stays open, and then you get all that coming back up and burning, and people think, oh, it's because I have too much acid. That's not the problem. You don't have enough. Again, if that's a problem that you have, try taking some lemon juice, a couple tablespoons of lemon juice, because that can help just up the acid in your stomach enough that it will close that muscle, and you'll find that that problem will be taken care of. Again, a lot of our patients, that has helped them, and it's very easy to do, and it's nothing that's harmful to your body. Okay, so there's some pH levels of some common ingredients. Let's take a look now at our digestive juices. We're going to look at some of the common ones here. Gastric secretions, we'll start with that. The gastric secretions that our stomach is putting out, what do you think, how much do you think our body is actually producing in the course of a day? We talked about saliva, about 1 to 1.5 quarts or liters, somewhere in there. What do you think the stomach is actually putting out to help with digestion? Somebody give me an idea. This is a class. 4 cups, okay. 3 liters, okay. Any other ideas? That's where we stop? Okay, well, let's take a look here. You guys are pretty close, 2.5 liters, okay? That's actually a lot when you think about that. That's a lot. Usually I have my bottle and I show my classes because I have a large bottle that I drink from, and I show them how much that would actually be quantity-wise. So that's 2.5 liters. That is over it's over 1/2 gallon that we're talking about there in quantity. So that's a lot of digestive juice that we're talking about being put out by our stomach. Okay, bile. Where did the bile come from again? Gallbladder. But what organ actually produced it? It's stored in the gallbladder. Liver. Okay, liver. So how much are we actually producing of that, do you think? Somebody give me an idea of what you think we're producing with our bile, or the liver is producing. 2 cups, okay, somebody's pretty close there. 500 mils, okay, so that's 2 cups, okay. Pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice put out by the pancreas. Remember that's about an 8.8, very alkaline substance being put out. What do you think we're producing for our pancreatic juice? You can almost tell with the scale here. Okay. We're 700 mils, so we're a little over close to 3 cups there. Okay, intestinal secretions, look at that one. What do you think that amount is? 3.5 liters? Okay, well, we're pretty close, 3 liters there. When you look at all this that's totaled up here, so we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 liters of juices that are being produced through our digestive tract. Along with our saliva, we're producing actually almost 2 gallons of digestive juices with saliva and all the juices through the digestive tract. That's amazing, because just like saliva is a composition that your body has put together specifically designed to aid with digestion, so is every other one of those secretions. It's specifically designed to aid with digestion. Now, very interesting fact, with the gastric secretions, there has been some research that's been done, a lady by the name of Victoria Butenko that had done some research and found that when you put more raw food in, and we talked about the importance of increasing our percentages of raw food last night, but when you put more raw food in, specifically what she tested is when someone went all raw. And again, we're not promoting that you go all raw, but I'm just sharing this to show you the difference that it makes when you put these enzyme-rich foods into your body. And what happened after 2 months of someone being all raw, their gastric secretions went from this quantity here down to about 1 cup. 1 cup. That's incredible. So when you think about it, because your body is putting a lot of energy into making these secretions, a lot of energy into composing this to help break these foods down. So now this person who's gone from, say, 2.5 liters down to 1 cup has freed up a lot of energy that can now go into healing in the body. Isn't that amazing? So raw foods, when you're putting raw foods in, not only are you receiving energy from all of the enzymes and nutrients, things that we talked about last night, the reasons why you can be receiving from that side of it, but you're also receiving energy just from the fact that your body is not having to work to create so much of this substance to break down those foods that you're putting in. Isn't that amazing? So that is something right there, just by increasing raw foods. And again, as we mentioned last night, so many of our patients, when they come to us and we get them onto a good program, increasing the amount of raw foods, lots of green smoothies, they come back to us. Sometimes within a week, they're coming back to us and saying, my energy is just incredible. We get phone calls from people who say, you know, my friend came to your clinic and they shared with me about green smoothies. I started green smoothies and my energy is just amazing. I have so much energy. And you'll find that too as you start to put these foods in. But this is another reason why the energy levels will be going up. Okay. Now, in your stomach, this is where collecting and churning is going to take place. And we talked about this is where the protein is going to be digested. Stomach acid of the gastric juice inactivates salivary enzymes and carbohydrate digestion ceases. So I mentioned that the pH level actually of our saliva is a 6.8, which is perfect for taking care of digestion of carbohydrates. But when we get to the stomach now, that pH is very acidic. And so carbohydrate digestion is going to actually stop, because it's too acidic for that to be taking place. Okay, the healthful fatty oil in the carrot, it's just going to separate and form a layer on top. The fats are not digested in the stomach, they're just going to sit there. So again, the stomach is for protein digestion. Now, something very important here is that the stomach cannot do this work if it's overfilled. Okay, if your stomach is too full, it's not going to be able to do its work, and it cannot properly digest the food. That is very, very important for you to remember. So, this is a quote here coming from Councils on Diet and Foods. Overtaxing the stomach is a common sin. Wow, it's actually a common sin. When too much food is used, the entire system is burdened. Life and vitality, instead of being increased, are decreased. Did you realize by overfilling our stomachs, we are actually decreasing our life? Wow, that's not something we really think about. Man uses up his vital forces in unnecessary labor in taking care of an excess of food. Very important. So, principle number 2 is do not overeat. Do not overeat. Now, usually when I do this class, the hands go up and people start saying, well, how do you know if you're overeating? How much is enough? You know, I feel full after this, but I don't feel full after that. People don't know. So I'm actually going to show you how to calculate the quantity of food that your stomach can digest at one meal. Okay, you can actually calculate how much food. It's going to be different for all of you because you're different sizes. Okay, so you can actually figure this out. We want to know the volume, and volume, of course, we know has to be calculated length times width times height. That's how we figure out volume. So we're going to try to figure out now the volume of the stomach. And just as we use our hand to give us a rough idea of the size of our heart, we know that a closed fist is going to give us a rough idea of the size of our heart. We can also use our hand to calculate roughly what the volume of our stomach will be. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. First of all, we need to measure the width of our palm in centimeters. So we're going to measure the width of it in centimeters. And then we're going to measure the length of the palm in centimeters. Okay? The length of the palm. And I'm going to pick on somebody here very shortly to be a volunteer. So start thinking who wants to be a volunteer. Okay, here's the formula. Width times length is going to equal the volume. Because we don't have a height to our hand that we can measure for the purposes of finding the volume of the stomach, it's calculated, the height is calculated at the same as the width. So that's why you're taking width times length, okay? What this will give us is the volume in cubic centimeters, the volume in cubic centimeters. Okay, so I need a volunteer, somebody that wants to come up and find out what the volume of your stomach is. Who wants to be a volunteer? You do? Okay, come on up. I'm glad I had somebody so quickly want to be a volunteer. Otherwise, I'd have to pick a volunteer. Okay, so we're going to do this in centimeters, okay? We're going across the widest part here of the hand, okay? So in centimeters, we're about 8.5, okay? Now, that's across the widest part of our hand is what we're measuring. Now we're going to measure the length, and the length is from where the wrist bends, okay? So right from where the wrist bends to the base of the fingers right here, okay? So this is what we're going to measure, and we are about 9. So we're 8.5 is the width, and 9 is the length. So let's calculate and see what the volume of your stomach is. We'll turn on this calculator. So 8.5 is the width, and width times width, and then times the length. Okay, and what this gives us now is the cubic centimeters, okay? So 650 cubic centimeters is the volume. What we want to do now is find what that works out to in liters, okay? So 1 cubic centimeter is going to equal 0.001 of a liter, okay? So we're going to multiply this times 0.001. That means your stomach is going to actually hold the volume 0.650. For those of you that are more familiar with cups, we know that 250 mils are a cup, okay? So 500 would be 2 cups, you're 650. So the volume of the stomach is just over, for this lovely volunteer, just over 2 cups, okay? That would be the volume of your stomach. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Now, something very interesting, though, that we have to remember, and that is we always want to eat only 2/3 of the volume of your stomach. I've had some people measure and they're like, oh, the volume of my stomach is 4 cups. Yeah, I can eat 4 cups. You have to remember, though, how much gastric juice was being produced by your stomach. Does anyone remember how much that was? It was 2.5 liters, okay, 2.5 liters. So you're dividing that 2.5 liters up. Mind you, if you're eating more raw foods, it will be less, but you're going to divide that up between your meals. That's a lot of gastric juice that needs to have space in there to work as well, and you don't want that stomach so full that it can't move, okay? So 2/3 of the volume of your stomach. So when you all go home tonight and get out your measuring tapes and calculate what the volume of your stomach is, remember that that is not how much you eat. That is actually the volume, and you want to take 2/3 of that. Now remember, this is well-chewed food. So we're not talking about if you find out that the volume of your stomach, what you should be eating 2/3 of that is, say, like 2 cups, okay? That doesn't mean 2 cups of salad and that's it. What I'm talking about is 2 cups of well-chewed food. So you're going to envision what this salad, because this salad's very fluffy, when you chew all that down, it's not going to make a lot, okay? So you're going to look at your plate now. If you're having a smoothie where you've blended that salad all up and you have 2 cups of that, that's a complete 2 cups, okay? That's completely all blended. Do you see the difference? Okay, so when you look at your food, just think of it if it was blended or all chewed up. Okay. Another wonderful quote here, regularity in eating is very important for health of body and serenity of mind. Never should a morsel, how big is a morsel? Tiny little crumb. Never should a morsel of food pass the lips between meals. Wow. That is so opposite of what our society is teaching today, isn't it? I don't know if you have noticed, but we sure notice with a lot of our patients that come in the office, they have been taught that they need to graze, or they need to eat, 5, 6, 7, 8 small little meals all day long, keep that metabolism going for whatever purpose. Maybe they're trying to lose weight or stabilize blood sugar or whatever it may be. That is not how your body is designed to operate. That is working against good health. So we should never, not even a morsel, even if we're in the kitchen preparing food and we want to, make sure it tastes just so, wait until it's mealtime to make sure it tastes just so. We should never put a morsel of food, never should a morsel of food pass our lips between meals. Very important. So that is principle number 3. Have regular meal times with no snacking, nothing between meals. Now, some people will tell us, but I'm hungry between meals. If you're hungry, if you're truly hungry, a lot of times that hunger is simply your body, that what you think is hunger is simply your body saying, I'm thirsty. You're going to learn more about water this week too. But oftentimes the thirst signal is manifested as hunger, and it feels like hunger. So try a glass of water. If that doesn't take it away, if you truly are hungry and your body is needing some nutrition, have a glass of freshly made juice. We talked about last night, we talked about how high the amount of nutrients are that you get from freshly made juice. Does anyone who was here last night remember how much juice or how much nutrients you get from juice to your cells? Does anyone remember that? 100%. Very close, 90% of the nutrients, 90% of the nutrients. So if you want to increase nutrition in your body, you want to get more nutrients in, than juice. Because you think about a glass of carrot juice, you're probably going to get, depending on the size of your carrots, you could get 3, 4, 5 carrots into that nice glass of juice. You would never sit down and eat that many carrots, but you're concentrating the nutrients and you've removed all the fiber. It's going to come in. It's not going to start up your digestion, very little digestion involved. It just basically is going to absorb, and within about 20 minutes or so will be out of your stomach into your cells. Wonderful way to get more nutrition into your body. So if you truly are hungry, do not snack, have a glass of juice. Okay, the next thing that we need to be careful is to watch our food combinations. Watch our food combinations. Now this is one that we find a lot of times people have really never even thought about. So they'll eat their big meal with their potato salad and their burger and whatever else, and then they top it off with a watermelon for dessert, or a piece of apple pie, or a banana or an apple or something. We need to be careful with our food combinations. Now, I don't want to get real complicated with it, and I don't believe that we need to get real complicated. What we really need to do is just make sure to keep fruits and vegetables separate, not taken at the same meal. And we'll see that here. Again, coming from Counsels on Diet and Foods. Fruit and vegetables taken at one meal, or taken together, produce acidity of the stomach. Now this is an acidity that is not good acid. This is hyperacidity in the stomach. Then impurity of the blood results, and the mind is not clear because the digestion is imperfect. You should understand that every organ of the body is to be treated with respect. In the matter of diet, you must reason from cause to effect. From cause to effect. So, principle number 4 is watch your food combinations. Make sure to keep the vegetables and the fruit separate. And I'm talking sweet fruit. I'm not talking, some people I know have asked us, well, what about a tomato and a cucumber and an avocado? Those are all fruit. Okay, those are fine to take with your vegetable meal. Avocado is neutral. Avocado can be had with a sweet fruit meal, or it can be had with a vegetable meal. It's a neutral. So, but your sweet fruits and your vegetables, things like potatoes, carrots, turnips, things like that, you want to keep those separate. You don't want to be eating your watermelon, bananas, and apples and things together at the same meal. Okay? So watch those food combinations. Now, I want to share an interesting fact here with you. What is cow's milk for? Okay, it's for baby cows, isn't it? Now, I want to share with you something. Cow's milk is a high-fat fluid that's exquisitely designed to turn a 65-pound baby calf into a 400-pound cow. That's what it's for, okay? That comes from Dr. Michael Clapper. Now, I want you to think about it. We have this fascination in our country with drinking cow's milk. Why is it that we as humans drink cow's milk? Why do we not drink rat's milk or giraffe milk or horse milk? I know some of you are turning up your face, but what's the difference between that and cow's milk? Okay? It's the same thing. Cow's milk is designed for cows. If we really wanted to drink as full-grown human beings, I'm not talking about babies, but as full-grown human beings, if we really wanted to drink milk, as a human, we should be drinking human milk, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I see some faces getting squeamish, but can you imagine going to the grocery store and picking a quart of mother's milk off the shelf to bring home to pour on your cereal? It sounds disgusting. Wouldn't you want to know what woman that came from, right? But we don't care what cow it came from. You know, it could come from a whole bunch of dirty cows all mixed together and we drink it, you know, but we'd want to know what person that came from. Did she have any diseases, right? Human milk is made for humans. Cow's milk is made for cows. So we don't need milk. If we want a milk, I want to give you a recipe because this, again, is a question that we get asked probably every single day. What do I do for milk? Okay, so here's what you can do for milk. Nut milks. Take any nut that you want. You can have macadamias, you can have cashews, you can have walnuts, you can have almonds, you can have whatever nut you want. You can have little jars of them all sitting there. Maybe today you want to have almond milk and tomorrow you feel like macadamia nut milk or whatever kind of milk you want. All you do is put a little bit of water into your blender, put in a few nuts, blend those up. If you want it thicker, more like a cream, add a few more nuts. If you want it thinner, more like a milk, more water, less nuts. If you want a little bit of sweetness, raisins, dates, a little bit of honey, a little bit of maple syrup, whatever little bit of sweetener you want. Some people like a little bit of vanilla bean in there to give a nice vanilla flavor. Again, that's great. You're only limited by your creativity, really. The ideas are endless, what you can do with your milk. We don't need to drink milk. Past the age of weaning, nature tells us we don't need to drink milk. If you look at animals in nature, you do not see those animals drinking milk once they're weaned. Cats that we keep for domestic animals, we feed them milk and they drink it. But in nature, you don't see that happening. And the same with us. After we are weaned, we no longer need that milk, okay? And certainly not cow's milk. All righty. All right, so back to our digestion now that's taken place. So that food has mixed very well with the gastric juice in our stomach, and it's going to get ready to carry on its process into the small intestine. Now, as it moves, and you saw in that little video clip where it moved out of the stomach, it was moving into the small intestine, this is now where the bile gets put in and the pancreatic juices are put in. And remember, the pH of those now is quite alkaline. So pancreatic juice is almost a 9, it's 8.8, and again our bile is right up there as well. What this is going to do now, this very acid mix coming out of our stomach, it's going to bring that pH back up. Now as we get into the small intestine, everything is going to start to be worked on. Carbohydrates we started in our mouth, but when they got into that very acid environment in our stomach, they stopped. And fats didn't do anything either because the pH needs to be picked up for those to start their digestion. So now this moves into the small intestine, and this is where fats begin to be emulsified. That bile helps to emulsify it. Basically what emulsification does is it helps prevent those molecules from coming and sticking back together. Okay? And that way then your body can now transport them into the tissues for use. So here's the gallbladder putting its bile in, and this is now where we start to call, we don't call it food anymore, we call this chyme, okay, that's what it's actually called. And it's going to start its movement through the small intestine, and everything is going to be absorbed here. This is where your nutrition is going to be absorbed. So if you've properly prepared it in the mouth, you've allowed proper processing in the stomach without snacking in between meals, without drinking water and diluting those digestive juices. Now those nutrients can actually start to be absorbed. Okay, so it's very, very important that we've prepared that food well. I just want to show you in the small intestine actually some pictures here of what is taking place, what it looks like. So you can see all the blood vessels. You can see inside all of the villi in here. It's just loaded. And here's a little bit closer up picture. So you can see all the surface area that this is all going to move through as it goes through the small intestine, and those nutrients are absorbed. So the sugars go through the small intestinal walls immediately. They start to be picked up right away. The enzymes combine from the pancreas and the walls of the small intestine to complete starch digestion, and then these substances enter the portal vein and go to the liver. And combinations of lipase from the pancreas and small intestine, they now work to emulsify the oil or any fats that are in there from the carrot. We're picking on the carrot this time. And then that's released into the lymphatic system through the thoracic duct, and it goes up into the heart, where it's circulated then throughout the body. Vitamins and minerals, which are in their living organic form, are immediately absorbed and transported directly to the cell structures of the body. So that's all what's going on in our small intestine. This is a very, very important part of digestion taking place. Now here you'll see we've got the food actually moving into the large intestine, going up and down in our ascending colon. Okay, so it's going to move up and down. So this is where some fluids and minerals are absorbed, and then some of the fiber is digested by the bacteria as well in the ascending colon. And toxins which accumulate in the colon, they're picked up in the transverse colon, and they're carried away from the bowel by the fiber. And this is basically the process that takes place every time we eat, from when we put food in our mouth the whole way through our system until it comes exits the body out the other end. This is what we call transit, the transit of food through the digestive tract. Now, I want to ask you a question. How long should transit time be from the time that we take this food into our body until it actually exits the body? How long should this process be?
8 hours.
8 hours?
12 to 24.
Okay, 12 to 24. Yes, 12 to 24. If it's 8 hours, it's actually not going to be long enough for nutrients to be absorbed properly. That would be too rapid. 12 to 24 is ideal. Now, most people in our society don't have anywhere close to that. Most people have transit times that are far, far longer. In fact, believe it or not, I'm a certified colon hydrotherapist, and I have a number of my patients through the years who have been in to see me with transit times that are taking a month. Yes. They're having one bowel movement a month. The first time that happened, I thought, you know, this is something for Guinness Book of Records, you know. But that's not the case. I've had a number of my patients over the years that have had that problem. Yes. When you think about it now, if this is sitting in your body and it has not moved through, then you are having what's called auto-intoxication taking place. So that means auto-intoxication simply means self-poisoning. So these poisons that are being produced in your system, and I'm going to show you very shortly what's being produced here, are being reabsorbed into the body. So we need to be very careful that we work with our bodies to make sure that transit time stays between that 12 to 24 hours. So I'm going to give you a very easy way that you can write down how to check your transit time. Very simple. With a meal, and it works better actually if you do this with breakfast. Breakfast is a good meal to do this with. Just take a couple of spoonfuls of sesame seeds. Sesame seeds, it really, as hard as you try to chew them all up, you're not going to get them all chewed. And they're going to move through. And sesame seeds work wonderful as a marker. So what you do is you time from when you take those in with your meal to the last time that you see them come out in your bowel movement, okay, the very last time. Sometimes people have them coming out over several bowel movements. It would be the last time that they come out. That would be what your transit time is, okay, and that needs to be between 12 and 24. Now, some people say, well, I use corn, it works great, or beets or things like that. Those are not really very good transit markers simply because they are slightly laxative, so they will not give you a true picture of what your transit time is. Sesame seeds work great. So try that, and if you find that your bowel is getting sluggish, then I'm going to give you some tips on things that you can do to help improve that bowel function, because it's critical to good health in your body to make sure that your whole digestive system is operating correctly. You know, we know, as I mentioned earlier, a lot about our vehicles, but very little about our human body. I want to ask you a question. We'll pick on the president or the prime minister we could pick on here in Canada. If he was to go away on a vacation for 3 months, and you didn't read about it in the newspaper, you didn't watch it on TV, nobody told you about it, would you know he was gone? Would you know he was gone on vacation for 3 months? No, you wouldn't. Okay. Tell me this. What if the garbage collectors went on strike for 2 weeks? Would you notice? Okay. You wouldn't even have to read about that one. Nobody would have to tell you. The same in our body. If our digestive tract is not working well and the disposal system is not working adequately, we're going to be in trouble. The president of our body is very important. That brain is very important. But the president's not going to function very well if the garbage collectors or disposers are not doing their job well. So it's important that we keep that transit time between 12 and 24 and check it regularly. All right, I'm going to give you some ideas on how you can cleanse your stomach. So here's some ideas on cleansing your stomach. First thing in the morning, drink a glass of warm water with 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice in it. Now with each of these stomach cleansing methods, you always need to make sure the stomach is empty, okay? You don't do this with a meal in your stomach. So with this one here, that's a very simple thing that you can do. You can do that for the rest of your life. It's a wonderful habit to be in, and it will do a little bit of a cleanse to your stomach. We often don't think about cleansing our stomach. You know, we'll think about cleansing the liver. You can go to the health food store and you can buy little kits for liver cleanse or gallbladder cleanse or colon cleanse or parasite cleanse or even blood cleanse. And we'll think about cleansing those organs, but we don't think about cleansing our stomach. But our stomach actually should also have a cleanse occasionally. So this is an excellent one to do. Or this is another one. Drink 1 to 2 sips of hot water every 5 to 10 minutes for 3 to 4 hours. So this would be something where you would skip breakfast, obviously, and you would just start in the morning. And every 5 to 10 minutes, you would be taking 1 or 2 sips of hot water, and you would do that over the course of the morning for 3 or 4 hours. And that would do a nice cleanse of your stomach as well. Okay? Another one is to fast for 24 to 36 hours, taking nothing into your system except lots of distilled water. This is a great stomach cleanse. And not only is it a stomach cleanse, but it allows all the organs of digestion to have a day off. Isn't that wonderful? We all like to have a day off, and you know, our organs of digestion enjoy a day off too. Having a day of fasting is an excellent health habit to be in. It gives your system a chance to rest. And that is very, very important. So those are some simple ways that you can, 3 different ways that you can cleanse that stomach. Now, here's principle number 5. In many cases of sickness, the very best remedy is for the patient to fast for a meal or two, that the overworked organs of digestion may have an opportunity to rest. The overworked organs of digestion. I mentioned earlier about people who are grazing or they're eating a lot of small little meals through the day for various things. Their doctors or nutritionists will recommend that they do this. And what they're doing is keeping those organs constantly working. Even though it's a little bit, it's constantly working. Now I want to ask you a question. If I just asked you to, you know, just raise your arm up and down, up and down. I mean, probably every one of us in here can do this. And what if I asked you, you know, keep doing this for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, do it for the next half hour. Do it until we're done with the seminar tonight, okay? Just keep going, right? I mean, it's only your arm that you're lifting. There's not a lot of weight there. What if I ask you to do that for 3 hours, 4 hours? What if I asked you just keep doing it all day long? Are you going to get to the place where that arm's going to get tired? Okay? It's not a lot of weight. It's just your arm, but it's going to get tired, right? Same with your stomach. That's muscles, as we talked about. You could just be putting little bits in there. People will say, well, it was just an apple. You know, I had an apple, and then an hour later I had some celery, and, you know, you're keeping that constantly working. And eventually that poor tummy is going to say, you know, I'm tired, and those muscles are going to start to rebel, and you start to get inflammation and irritation happening. And you end up with things like gastritis and problems that start to develop there. So give your stomach a chance to rest. And we should be very careful when we eat to allow enough time in between our meals for that stomach to not only empty, not only to finish digestion, but to have a little period of rest. You know, in our society, it's almost a terrible thing if the stomach is empty. You know, people feel like, oh, my stomach is empty, I've got to fill it. Why? Because it's empty? You know, why do we fill our stomach? Really, we're filling it because our body needs nutrition. But there again, because a lot of times people don't understand the reason that they're eating to begin with, they think, well, it's just, you know, kind of this bag that hangs in there, and when it gets empty, you fill it up, and when it's full, then that, you know, carry on your way. That's not the way it works. When your stomach, when your body actually signals hunger, it's not saying the stomach is empty. It's saying, I need nutrition. That's what it's saying. I need glucose. That's what your body runs on. I need some glucose. Maybe I need some other nutrients, okay? And if we don't understand that, then we're very apt to run to McDonald's or KFC or wherever, and we just stuff whatever in and fill up that empty bag and carry on our way. But the body didn't get what it needed. And so a couple hours later, we're going to be hungry again. And people come to us and they say, I'm hungry all the time. I'm constantly hungry. And when we start looking at how they're eating, they're just filling up that bag with whatever they can think to throw in there and fill it up. That's not how we need to eat. We need to eat with our mind, logically, and understand what's going on in our body. Very, very important. So give those organs a chance to rest. Now, I want to let you know, for a fruit meal, if you're having a fruit meal, that's going to take roughly about 4 hours until that stomach is empty. You have about 3 hours for digestion of that food, and then about an hour roughly to empty. So you want to give yourself at least 4 hours after having had a fruit-based meal, so say that was your breakfast, before you eat again. So if you're going to have that kind of a meal, let's say at 8 o'clock, you really don't want to start putting anything in till 12 at the very soonest, and it would be a good idea maybe even to wait till 1 so that poor stomach had a little bit of an opportunity to just go, little rest, and then get ready for the next meal. Okay? Now, if it's a vegetable-based meal, you want to give at least 5 hours, because you need 4 hours to digest those vegetables, and then you need roughly about an hour to empty your stomach out. So you want to have about 5 hours for a vegetable-based meal. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about meal planning and the time in between your meals. So principle number 5 is to let your digestive tract rest. So here's 5 principles of good digestion. Do not drink liquid with meals. Do not overeat. Have regular meal times. Watch your food combinations. And then let your digestive tract rest. And if you will incorporate those into your eating habits, you will find your health will improve. Now, I want to show you, this comes from Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. Probably a lot of you have heard about him. He was a medical doctor, had a large sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan, around the turn of the 1900s, in that era. And this is what he shows the body is getting rid of when it processes your meal through. Okay, so let's take a look here. He says the chief constituents of the feces are as follows. Bile, where did that come from? Gallbladder, okay. Remains of the digestive juices, especially of the pancreatic juice. Mucus, excretory substances thrown off by the intestinal mucous membrane. Microbes and various poisons produced by microbes, such as indole, skatole, pyrrole. By the way, those are very toxic poisons in the body. And numerous other poisons, together with some, what's that word there? Small amounts of the various food principles and water. So mostly what your body is getting rid of is toxic waste. Toxic waste. And there again, in our society, we have trained our bodies to be on hold. And a lot of my patients over the years have actually trained their bodies so well to be on hold that now their bodies won't work properly for them. And then we have to try to work to reverse what they've been training their bodies to do over the years. If your body signals that there's toxic matter that needs to be released, don't use the excuse, well, I don't like public bathrooms, or, whatever the case may be. Think about the poisons that are in your body that your body wants to get out of there, and get those poisons out. A lot of times people say, well, I'm driving and I really don't feel like stopping, you know, or I'm on the telephone, and I'll put my body on hold. I'm going to actually show you a picture, an x-ray picture of one of my patients who trained her body over many, many years to be on hold, and the damage that it caused to her body. And it caused actually permanent damage to her body. And it will with your bodies as well too. So just remember, when your system is signaling that it needs to get this toxic waste out, you want to work with your system. You don't want to keep that in there because this is very poisonous. Okay. Dr. William Hunter had this to say: the colon is the sewer system of the body, but with neglect and abuse it becomes a cesspool of toxins that spill over into the body. That's what it becomes. Now, the very first cause, the key cause of weight gain is toxic accumulation in the bowel. That's the key cause, the first cause of weight gain in the body. The colon can expand up to 5 times its regular size. I'm actually going to show you, that is what's called megacolon. And I'm going to show you a textbook picture of what that actually looks like. Most people, Dr. Jack Lamar said, most people are walking around with at least 7 pounds of fecal matter in their intestines. And I have seen patients lose that much weight and their stomach bulge immediately following colon treatment. And I've actually seen that with some of my patients. I actually have had several of my patients who in one session have lost 10 pounds. Now that's just out of that food tube. That's just matter that's sitting there in that food tube, toxic matter that's been sitting there and accumulating that they're getting cleaned out. So a lot of people, most people, as Dr. Lamar says, have at least 7 pounds, and I believe that probably a good majority are even more than that. This is an x-ray picture of my patient that I was telling you about. She's given me permission to use her x-ray in teaching purposes. You remember the picture that we looked at the very start where you had your quiz, and you remember what the anatomy should look like. And I want to show you what this is, and I want you to tell me if this is a normal colon. Okay, here's the ascending colon. This is the transverse colon that runs across our middle. Okay, so this is the transverse. This is the descending colon that runs down. I want to ask you if that is a normal colon. No. That is not a normal colon. And probably none of you are trained in reading x-rays, but you can all look at that and say, that is not how a normal, healthy body should look. And yet when I finally sent her for these x-rays, because we were having difficulty getting her system working and I wanted to see what was going on. And when the x-rays came back to her doctor said, your colon's normal. And sent her along to me with her x-rays, and I said, this is not normal. This may be common, but this is not normal. This is not how your body should look, and all of you can see that. This ascending colon is ballooned out with matter sitting in there. Look at this transverse colon, so prolapsed down. Okay, when the weight of matter sitting in there over time, gravity will pull that colon down and it will actually prolapse. Then of course it's sitting on the bladder and other organs and it's causing issues with those organs as well. But that's very prolapsed. And then coming down the descending colon, you can see the strictures. I mean, it's actually even lost this shape here. The hostra has been lost and we've got all kinds of strictures and things happening there. This was a very severely damaged colon. This was over years of putting her body on hold. From a very little girl, her dad, he was a salesman and he didn't want to stop when the kids were in the car, and he's like, no, you just hold till we get to wherever we're going, point A to point Z. And so she just learned that habit, and it was a very bad habit to get into. And over time, she did damage to her body. But the nice thing is, I mean, we worked together with her. When she came to me, I'll tell you how bad her system was. When she came, she could not have a bowel movement on her own. She could literally take handfuls of laxatives and it would do nothing for her. Nothing. She could not have a bowel movement until she came in and we would do colon hydrotherapy to work to clean her bowel. The nice thing is, this person today, she now has one bowel movement a day. She's not going to ever get to the ideal of 2 or 3 bowel movements a day, but she does have one bowel movement every day, and that will be the best she can ever do because there is permanent damage that's taken place here in the body. But just to give any of you hope, because I know a lot of people have problems with their systems working the way that they should be working. And to give you hope, if you do have problems, most people can reverse those problems or greatly improve what's happening in their body, okay? Now, I want to show you, this is what's called, this is actually a textbook picture of megacolon. This is a gentleman that went in, this is before surgery. This is all bloated out here because of his colon. That's his colon in there. And you're going to see what his colon looks like when they took it out. This is the doctor's hand here, actually. This is after surgery. This poor fellow was actually having normal bowel movements right up until a couple of days before he went for surgery. There was, in the middle of all this, a tiny little space that matter was still, the body was still working to move it through and get it out of his system. Unfortunately, he didn't survive. His body was too toxic, and he did not survive. That is megacolon, and that is what happens in our bodies if we allow things to start building up in there. So I really want to encourage you, not to discourage you with things like this, but to encourage you, work to keep those transit times between 12 and 24. Do things to clean your body. Give your organs a chance to rest so that your system can work on cleaning and detoxifying and moving things out of there. Very important things to do. Now I want to show you what happens in our bowel if we have healthy function. Okay? Because this is really interesting. If we're eating really good foods, putting good foods in, we have some really neat things that are taking place. We have something called lactoperoxidase, and that's a protein enzyme that actually damages unhealthful bacteria. So this is just a picture of the bacteria here that's sort of blown up, and this particular protein enzyme is blasting a hole through the outer layer of that bacteria. It's so fascinating. If you ever want a fascinating study, study the body, the human body, the things that are taking place inside of us. This is like a little battle zone going on in our body. It's amazing. Or we have things like this, globulin proteins. These are proteins that prevent the unhealthful bacteria from actually being able to attach to the walls of the colon. So it's preventing that. Then we have these interesting little guys down here. That's called lactoferrin, and that's a protein that traps iron and it blocks its use by the unhealthy bacteria. Unhealthy bacteria use iron. That's what they feed on. And so what this particular protein does is it traps it, the iron in there, and prevents the bacteria from using it. So fascinating. All these things that God has put into place in our bodies. Now that's if we have healthy function taking place. If we're eating a really good diet, nice nut milk here, eating a really good diet. Now over here, if we're eating an unhealthy diet, like what is shown there, we're going to have things like yeast. We're going to have intestinal deterioration. The actual intestinal walls are going to start to deteriorate. We're going to have toxins and parasites taking place. So that's what's going to happen if we are consuming an unhealthy diet, okay? All right, let's take a look now how to retrain the bowel, how to retrain the bowel. So if you want some ideas on things that you can do, we'll take a look here. First of all, water and vegetable fruit juices, you need about 1 ounce for every 2 pounds of body weight. 1 ounce for every 2 pounds of body weight. Now, Rudy's going to talk more about this in an upcoming lecture, so you're going to learn a little bit more about this, but that's roughly what you need to be taking in. Exercise. We're going to talk about this one. Exercise, we need to exercise at least a half an hour. That's minimum. That is minimum. But at least a half an hour, 6 days a week. We were meant to move. Our bodies were meant to move. And as we sit, our society really caters to being sluggish and sedentary. You know, we sit at desk jobs all day and then we go home and we're tired mentally, but that makes us feel tired physically. And so we sit on the couch all evening and then we go to bed and lay down all night. And we're very inactive. and our health suffers because of it. We're going to talk more about that in an upcoming lecture. Increase your dietary intake of fiber. Okay, so increase the amount of fiber that you're getting in. You may want to, a lot of my patients, I will recommend that they will take organic wheat bran. The organic wheat bran is much better than the processed wheat bran that you can buy just in the grocery store. But get the organic. It hasn't been processed. It will work much better as a fiber to help move things through. Maybe psyllium will work as well. We'll talk about that here shortly. But increase that intake of dietary fiber. Allow adequate time between meals. Make sure that they're not too large or too small. We talked about what happens if we overfill our stomachs. Our stomach cannot properly digest that food. If the food that we put in is just a snack, a small little bit, let's say we're on the run and busy and we didn't have time for lunch, so we just grab a little handful of nuts and carry on our way. What happens is that peristaltic wave that moves it down into our stomach now fizzles out somewhere along the route. It doesn't keep moving along. And that peristaltic wave is very important to move all through our digestive tract to keep the food from previous meals moving through. When we eat a meal, let's say we ate breakfast this morning, and that moved down into our stomach. We had a nice good breakfast, wasn't too large, wasn't too small. What happened with that peristaltic wave is it carried along the digestive tract, and somewhere in the small intestine was our meal. Maybe we had supper the night before or lunch the previous day. Somewhere that meal was sitting, say, in the small intestine, and that wave came along and it moved it over to the ascending colon, where it went up and down. And then that wave carried on, and somewhere the previous meal before that, let's say it was lunch or breakfast of the previous day, was sitting somewhere, say, in the transverse colon. And it moved that along into the descending colon for exit from the body. That's how our bodies work. That's how peristaltic action works. If our meals are too large or too small, we don't get that good peristaltic action, and it fizzles out. And so then that food that should have moved along doesn't get moved along, and it sits there, and we get what's called constipation. That food does not move through our bodies as it should. We should, ideally, if our systems are working healthfully, we should be having a bowel movement within an hour to an hour and a half after we eat. Not from the meal that we ate, but because we got good peristaltic action that worked through that whole food tube. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so that's some things to aim for in working with your body. But make sure to allow adequate time between those meals and make sure they're not too large or too small. Keep on schedule. This is very important. If your body, by the way, your body likes to be on a schedule. All of you know, Rudy and I are feeling it because we've done the big jump in time zones here, and our bodies are saying, you know, okay, it's 12:30 our time. You're supposed to be sleeping. What are you doing? You're awake. Your body wants to be on a schedule, and it will let you know if you're not keeping on schedule. Our body wants to be on schedule with eating as well. So if we eat at 7 o'clock, our breakfast at 7 today, we want to make sure to eat at 7, 7:15, 7:30 at the latest tomorrow. Not 8 o'clock, not 8:30, 9 o'clock, or you know, mid-morning or something like that. No, no, no. Our body wants to eat at the same times from day to day, within a half an hour of the same time. So keep those meals on time. If you can't have a meal on time, you're better to skip it altogether. Skip that meal, drink some water, you won't die, and go on. You'll have the next meal. You know, your system will actually feel really good. You'll feel invigorated. Okay, here's some natural remedies for a sluggish bowel now. If your bowel is sluggish, acid fruits are especially laxative in their raw form. So things like oranges and grapefruits and all of your berries, those are wonderful for helping with improving good bowel function, or if you're having struggles with constipation. Take a good probiotic. This is something that works for a lot of people. Now, this isn't all things that you have to do. Some things work well with some people. You can try some of these natural remedies. But sometimes a good probiotic is all that a person needs. Maybe their probiotics in their bowel or their good bacteria have been compromised. So just pick up some acidophilus from your health food store, Try taking a couple of capsules every day and see if that will help improve what's happening in your body. Buy whole flax seeds and grind several tablespoons daily and sprinkle that on cereal or salad. That's wonderful for helping not only to get the fiber, but also improving your omega-3 and 6 that you would get with the flaxseed. That would be wonderful for your body as well. Buy your flaxseed whole. Do not buy them pre-ground, because when you grind them, they oxidize rapidly. Those essential fatty acids in there are very sensitive to heat, light, and oxygen. So as soon as you grind them, they're going to start to oxidize. Buy them whole, put them in a little coffee grinder, a couple tablespoons or whatever you're going to use at that meal, grind them up and consume them for that meal. Okay, you can try psyllium, 1/4 to 1/2 of a teaspoon of psyllium seed daily mixed into 1 glass of water. Make sure to drink plenty of water throughout the day. Okay, that's very important when you're taking psyllium. Psyllium is like a broom. It just sort of sweeps through your whole digestive tract, and it works wonderful, but you need to make sure to drink enough water, otherwise you'll find that that will block you. Drink fresh vegetable, fruit juices daily. This is wonderful. If you haven't been into juicing, I would really encourage you to start juicing. You will find your energy will increase, your whole health will improve by taking those juices in. Take 1 to 2 tablespoons of a nutritional oil daily, so flaxseed oil or Udo's oil is an excellent oil to be getting. Garlic is wonderful. Garlic contains allicin, which stimulates the muscular walls of the intestinal tract, so that is a wonderful thing to be taking. Now, sometimes, I'm not sure why that jumped ahead there, but sometimes a person has a very stubborn bowel. Magnesium can be helpful in that case. You may need to take some magnesium for a little while. 250 to 800 milligrams of magnesium daily, divided up over the day. And if you end up getting a little bit more than what you need, what will happen is you're going to get loose stool, so just back that off then to what works good for you. But ideally, I like to encourage my patients just take more greens in. Do green smoothies. How many of you have tried green smoothies? Oh, quite a few of you have. Wonderful, wonderful. For those of you that haven't, I'll just give you a very simple way to make a green smoothie. A couple cups of juice in your blender. Usually we will just use like pineapple juice, or if you prefer an unsweet taste to your smoothie, tomato juice works fine too. Put that couple cups of juice in, couple large handfuls of greens. Sometimes we'll change our greens up, but if you want one to start with, a big handful of spinach and then maybe a bunch of fresh parsley in there with that. If you're going to use kale in your spinach, I recommend to people to strip the kale leaf off of the stem, because the stem is very fibrous and it doesn't blend well, and then you get this sort of stringy fibrous texture to your smoothie. And then put in a tablespoon of a nutritional oil in that smoothie. Usually we use the Udo's oil. I find that's a very nice blend, and so that's the oil that we like to use. Tablespoon of that in. Blend that all up, and you have a green smoothie. Now you can put a lot of spinach in. You can make those a whole meal. And a lot of times we will do that. We will just put a lot of spinach and greens, romaine lettuce, whatever nice lovely greens you can get. And this is a way to get your magnesium naturally. The green the green color in the plant is called chlorophyll. And the center portion of that is called magnesium. And magnesium is what helps keep our whole digestive tract, specifically in the bowels, moving well. So that's a very easy way to increase your magnesium naturally. Now, things that hinder good bowel function, this jumped ahead. Poor posture. This is usually where everybody sits up straight. Okay, poor posture. Why do you think poor posture is going to hinder good digestion? This is your quiz at the end. Why do you think? You know what our bodies look like inside. Tell me what you think. Why do you think that's going to hinder good digestion? Oh, okay, you're cramping everything, aren't you? You're cramped. So we slouch in our chairs and we slouch when we walk. We need to stand tall. We need to sit up straight. Let those organs of digestion have room in there to function, okay? Poor posture. Let's look at another one that hinders good digestion. Watery soups. Watery soups. Why do you think watery soups could be a problem? Okay, too much water. Okay, so those are all good answers. The key problem with these watery soups is the bulk of it is water. Liquid. It's a liquid. Okay, so your body's going to absorb this liquid first, and what's it going to be left with? A snack, really. Very little, right? There's very little left. I'm not talking about a stew. I'm talking about a watery soup. So there's very little substance left. So now that peristaltic action, it's going to fizzle out somewhere. So this is going to impair good bowel function. If you want to have a soup, and I'm not saying you can't have your soups, but if you want to have a soup, a soupy soup, have something along with it. Have a sandwich, have a nice salad, have something that's got some substance there so that when that water does absorb, that there's a substance there that it's enough that's going to still cause peristaltic action to work through your whole digestive tract. Okay, next we have tight clothing. Tight clothing. Why would that be a problem? Why would that hinder good bowel function?
Restriction.
Okay, restriction. With poor posture, we were crunching up our organs this way, weren't we? With tight clothing, we crunch our organs this way. Our organs were not meant to be crunched. God made us so that our organs have room to move, so that they can do their job properly. So we need to make sure to have clothing that allows our bodies to function the way they should. Now, another thing that hinders good digestion actually is, or good bowel function I should say, is a mostly meat diet. Meat has no fiber at all. It moves very sluggishly through the digestive tract. It can take 72 hours or more to move through your digestive tract. And in my classes, I will ask people, think about it. What if you took that lovely steak home or that piece of, you know, whatever chicken or package of hamburger, and you set that on your kitchen counter where it's nice and warm, and you let it sit there for 72 hours. Would you eat it? You wouldn't eat it. No. It would be rotting, wouldn't it? That's exactly what takes place in your body. It's moving very sluggishly through the digestive tract. It's warm, it's dark, it's moist. It's the perfect environment for breeding all kinds of bacteria in there. And it's going to putrefy. It's going to rot in your body. So meat, again, because I know this is going out to a lot of people. So there will be people watching this, and I want to encourage the people that are watching, if you're eating meat in your diet, you may want to be taking steps to eliminate that from your diet. While you're eliminating that from your diet, eat the meat not with a starch. Do not have it with a potato or with pasta, anything that's starchy. Instead, have a big green salad. If you eat your meat with a big green salad, at least that's going to move it through your system. And while you're working to eliminate that then from your diet, that will help your body to keep processing it out so that it doesn't rot in your system. That's something that you can do as you're making those steps to improve your diet. Okay, inactivity. Inactivity. Why do you think inactivity might hinder good bowel function? That should be an easy one. Why do you think? No ideas? Okay, no movement. When we walk, or any kind of activity, we're actually moving our diaphragm. We're actually moving those organs in there. And that helps to keep things moving through. It helps to keep things moving through our digestive tract in a timely manner. So exercise is very important. When we sit around, things start to slow down. So if you find that, that maybe you're not getting enough exercise, and we're going to talk about that one, if you find that maybe you need to pick that up, look at some ways that you can incorporate more activity into your day. And we'll give you all kinds of ideas of things that you can do to integrate more activity into your day, and that will relate to better health in your body. Sweating. Sweating. We haven't really talked about this, but what do you think might be a problem if we're doing a lot of sweating? What do you think might be a problem? Think about some of the things that we've learned with digestion. Any ideas? Okay, dehydration. Somebody said dehydration. Good. What happens when we're sweating profusely? What we call a sensible perspiration. What means you can actually sense it. We all have insensible perspiration taking place, but actual sensible perspiration. So it's hot outside, or we're active doing something, and we're losing that moisture out of our body. Our body will draw the water from the bowel for more critical areas. So if you're not replacing that water, that will end up constipating you. It will end up causing your bowel to function poorly. So sweating can be a problem. Processed sugars. Processed sugars. Okay, you probably will not have any idea on this one, but processed sugars, when we eat those, they actually will cause a portion of our small intestine called the jejunum to actually stop while your body deals with all of this sugar before it can get started again. Now, what happens if we put something into this tunnel, into this tube, and it doesn't digest? It stops for any reason. What's going to happen? Any ideas? Okay, if it's a carbohydrate, a sugar, it's going to ferment. If it's a protein, it's going to start to rot. Okay? So it could have been the best food that we put in there, but maybe we put it in the wrong combinations. We drank with it. We did, we ate too close to our other meal, or some other principle of good digestion that we violated. If that is not digesting, if it's a sugar, it's going to ferment. If it's a protein, it's going to start to putrefy or rot in our body. Okay? So processed sugars actually cause that process to happen then in our small intestine. We want to avoid processed sugars for a number of reasons, but this is a key reason, that it will impair digestion. So just in review, the 5 principles of good digestion are: do not drink liquids with your meals, do not overeat, have regular meal times, watch your food combinations, and let your digestive tract rest. Okay, those are our 5 principles of good digestion. Have regular meal times with no snacking. Okay, that should have been on there. I want to share with you a couple of quotes here. Fashionable visiting is made an occasion of gluttony. Fashionable visiting is made an occasion of gluttony. Hurtful food and drinks are partaken of in such a measure as to greatly tax the organs of digestion. The vital forces are called into unnecessary action in the disposal of it, which produces exhaustion and greatly disturbs the circulation of the blood. And, as a result, want of vital energy is felt throughout the system. Fashionable visiting. We have so many patients that will come to us and say, it was Christmas, or family came over, I had to make that food for them, or, we were invited out, we had to eat this. I would like to suggest that probably no one was standing there forcing anyone to take a bite of anything, right? But we have this idea that, we don't want to offend someone, so we better eat this, even though we know it's terrible, it's going to hurt our bodies, but we better eat it anyway. But I want you to keep in mind that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. The temple. We don't want to defile the temple. We want to keep that in perfect health as much as we possibly can. Now, that being said, there may be the occasion where God asks you to do something. I don't know. But I think for the most part, oftentimes we will use fashionable visiting as an excuse to indulge perverted appetite. So I want to encourage you, keep your standards as much as you can. If God speaks to you and says, listen, I want you to do something, I am not going to stand here to say otherwise. There may be an occasion. I don't know. But I do know that a lot of times this will be made an excuse to harm our bodies or to put things in that we know are going to be very hurtful. Some do not exercise control over their appetites but indulge taste at the expense of health. As the result, the brain is clouded. Their thoughts are sluggish, and they fail to accomplish what they might if they were self-denying and abstemious. These rob God of the physical and mental strength which might be devoted to His service if temperance were observed in all things. We're robbing God. Isn't that something? Gluttony and intemperance lie at the foundation of the great moral depravity in our world. Satan is aware of this, and he is constantly tempting men and women to indulge the taste at the expense of health and even life itself. Appetite has such a power over us that we are sometimes even willing to indulge it at the expense of life itself. To me, that's incredible. Eating, drinking, and dressing are made the aim of life in the world. Just such a state of things existed before the flood, and this state of dissipation is one of the marked evidences of the soon close of this earth's history. You know, I see that, and I'm sure all of you do, as we see eating has become such an aim in life. The restaurants and the whole environment that will be put into this whole experience of eating to encourage gluttony, it's become the aim of life for so many people. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living sacrifice, the kind He will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship Him. And that's the New Living Translation of Romans 12, 1 and 2. This is the way we worship God in our bodies. So, in review for tonight, to avoid tunnel eating, remember the 5 principles of good digestion. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you know more about your body now than when you came, and I hope it will give you better health. Thank you.